Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. Hope you're doing well on this Thursday. Hope you're not too hot and you're staying cool. So I've got a tag for you today. I was very kindly, or should that be unkindly, perhaps, tagged by Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads in the To Die For tag, a tag created by Peter the Book Lover. All relevant links will be down below. The reason I say unkindly is because the premise of this book is to talk about 5 books you really want to buy. Well, I want to buy a load more than 5 books. So I thought the easiest way for me was to choose the 5 books that I've most recently added to my wish list. That doesn't preclude the others that are there that I also would most like to buy, but as of yet haven't. Right then, the first book I'm going to talk about is one I actually saw on a fairly old video of Steve Donahue's, but it doesn't matter, does it? The book is still relevant and I can still want to buy it. And it's a book called A Hero of Our Time by a Russian author, Mikhail Lermontov. And I understand it's an adventure book. It's extremely well written. Unfortunately, the author died prematurely as the result of a duel, which in itself sounds like something that he's the type of character who's probably written a very interesting book. Having not read it, I can't tell you too much about it. So for all these, I will just give you the blurb that I've seen about it. So I know the one I want is a fairly new translation. I think it's Marianne Schwartz, is it? I think, but it's Penguin anyway. Penguin. Classic. So, in its adventurous happenings, its abductions, duels, and sexual intrigues, a hero of our time looks backward to the tales of Sir Walter Scott and Lord Byron, so beloved by Russian society in the 1820s and 30s. In the character of its protagonist, Pechorin, the archetypal Russian anti-hero, Lermontov's novel looks forward to the subsequent glories and passion of Russian literature that it helped, in great measure, to make possible. So it seems like this is a precursor really to all the greats that we know of Russian literature, so I feel it must be read. And I believe the book is only some 200 pages long, so it would be quite a quick read. So there we go. The first one on my list for this tag is A Hero of Our Time by Mikhail Lermontov. The next one is a non-fiction called The Monster's Bones, The Discovery of T-Rex and How It Shook Our World by David K. Randall. I do like my dinosaurs and my paleontology and this kind of thing. When you get a good book to do with something like that, it's there's almost nothing better. However, there are so many books on this, but not all of them good. This one, however, looks brilliant, and I hope it is. It certainly gets a load of reviews, although according to Goodreads, it hasn't got a huge number of ratings. So that probably just means there are not that many dinosaur lovers out there. Although, of course, there are loads. I don't know. But anyway, what's it about? Well, apparently, it's a gripping narrative of a fearless paleontologist, the founding of America's most loved museums, and the race to find the largest dinosaur on record. In the dust of the Gilded Age, Bone Wars, 2 vastly different men emerge with a mission to fill the empty halls of New York's struggling American Museum of Natural History. Henry Fairfield Osborne, a privileged socialite whose reputation rests on the museum's success, and intrepid Kansas-born fossil hunter Barnum Brown. When Brown unearths the first Tyrannosaurus rex fossils in the Montana wilderness, forever changing the world of paleontology, Osborne sees a path to save his museum from irrelevancy. With 4-foot-long jaws capable of crushing the bones of its prey and hips that powered the animal to run at speeds of 25 miles per hour. The T-Rex suggests a prehistoric ecosystem more complex than anyone imagined. As the public turns out in droves to cower before this bone-chilling giant of the past and wonder at the mysteries of its disappearance, Brown and Osborne together turn dinosaurs from a biological oddity into a beloved part of culture. Vivid and engaging, The Monster's Bones journeys from prehistory to the present day, from remote Patagonia to the unforgiving badlands of the American West to the penthouses of Manhattan. With a wide-ranging cast of robber barons, eugenicists and opportunistic cowboys, New York Times bestselling author David K. Randall reveals how a monster of a bygone era ignited a new understanding of our planet and our place within it. Doesn't that sound awesome? Sure it does. You know it's going on your list too, right? So then, book number 3 that I would really love to get is an old one. Again, I guess like Lermontov, not as old as Lermontov's, but it's an old book. It's not just come out, that's for sure, and it's an autobiography. It's an autobiography of Basil Rathbone, the actor who played Sherlock Holmes back in the 1930s and 40s, and I really like him, so I would love to read his autobiography. Of course, like a lot of autobiographies, I'm sure it's a little bit biased in favour of the person who's writing it, of course. But nevertheless, he is such an eloquent and well-spoken man. I'm sure he's a wonderful writer as well, and I just want to see his own take on his career. I've heard from reviews that he actually glosses over a lot of the film stuff because he fancied himself more of a stage actor, but apparently it's just full of anecdotes and little tidbits of the golden age of acting, I suppose. So I really want to read it. Anyway, what does the summary say of it? Basil Rathbone's book about himself is better written than most books by or about actors and is more intellectually vigorous. Sherlock Holmes fans will be much interested in his remarks on the character with whom he has been so closely identified. That comes from the Library Journal, apparently. Quite naturally full of memories, full of names, full of glimpses of stars, of stage and screen, of yesterday and today. Well, not today, I suppose. Probably yesterday and the day before yesterday, and several decades ago. But that comes from the New York Times book review. Sounds good. I mean, I love these Hollywood old golden age biographies and autobiographies. I read last year, was it, or 2 years ago? I read The Divine Feud about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. Fantastic book, fantastic. And I read also a biography of Charles Lawton. Awesome, So I absolutely love these. I think Errol Flynn as well. Yeah, I could keep going. It's a fascinating period and fascinating people. Next up, we have one called The Library of the Lost, In Search of Forgotten Authors, by Roger Dobson and edited by Mark Valentine. So this is an interesting book, a book full of essays, I suppose, really. Let's see what they say about it online. Why did W.B. Yeats want a hair from the head of Aleister Crowley? And how did the artist Althea Giles get it for him? Ooh. What was the terrible lesson learned by scholar and demonologist the Reverend Montague Summers? Why was Sherlock Holmes reticent about his college years? Which unlikely chronicler of the decadence numbered among his friends Christine Keeler, Sir Oswald Mosley, Colin Wilson, and an assortment of beat poets? This volume is a tribute to Roger Dobson, 1954 to 2013, who had a keen eye for the strangest outposts of literature. The 20 essays offered here demonstrate why the eminent Spanish novelist Javier Marias described Dobson as a remarkable man, recondite and bookish. Readers will encounter kings, priests, tragic poets, dandies, and forgotten authors whose rare works should be better known. Several pieces track Arthur Machen's characters through the great mystery of London, rediscovering their lairs and lost haunts, and there are vivid studies of M.P. Shiel, Buller Lytton, George Gissing, Jocelyn Brooke, and others. The collection will delight all connoisseurs of fantastic, supernatural, and ultra literature. It collects essays by Roger Dobson from such publications as the Antiquarian Book Monthly Review, the Lost Club Journal, Strange Attractor, and Faunus, as well as including previously unpublished material. It has been edited by and has an introduction from Mark Valentine, and there is a foreword by Javier Marias. Sounds good, right? Perfect book for bookish people, I would say. Who doesn't want to learn about lost, forgotten, and I might as well say misplaced authors, seeing as it's a theme that Sean D. Stanfast and I are going to be looking into indefinitely, because there's loads of them. I mean, we have a short list of 20, but a long list of well over 50. So I think that will occupy us for a while, and I think this is an important book for us to read in the process of doing this. So there you go. And last but not least, the fifth book that I would like to buy also fits in with an event we're running, funnily enough, which is probably why I added it to my wish list. It fits in with August of Adventures coming up, which I'm hoping you're going to join, of course. It's going to be great fun. And it's a non-fiction book, a non-fiction adventure book, I suppose, called The River of the Gods, Genius, Courage and Betrayal in the Search for the Source of the Nile by Candice Millard. So, shall we carry on and see what it says about it? Right, I feel like I should do one of those cinema voices. From the New York Times. No, something like that, you know. From the New York Times best-selling author of River of Doubt and Destiny of the Republic, the stirring story of one of the great feats of exploration of all time and its complicated legacy. The Nile River is the longest in the world. Its fertile floodplain allowed for rise to great civilization of ancient Egypt. But for millennia, the location of its headwaters was shrouded in mystery. Pharaonic and Roman attempts to find it were stymied by a giant labyrinthine swamp, and subsequent expeditions got no further. In the 19th century, the discovery and translation of the Rosetta Stone set off a frenzy of interest in ancient Egypt. At the same time, European powers set off waves of explorations intended to map the unknown corners of the globe and extend their colonial empires. Two British men, yes, of course, in those days, two British men, that's right. Two British men, Richard Burton and John Hanning Speke, were sent by the Royal Geographical Society to claim the prize for England. Burton was already famous for being the first non-Muslim to travel to Mecca, disguised as an Arab chieftain. I suppose he wouldn't be able to get away with it today, would he? You know, not allowed to dress up as things you're not. He spoke 29 languages, was a decorated soldier, and literally wrote the book on sword fighting techniques for the British Army. He was also mercurial, subtle, and iconoclastic, and an iconoclastic atheist. Speke was a young aristocrat and army officer, determined to make his mark, passionate about hunting. Burton's opposite in temperament and beliefs. From the start, the two men clashed, Speke chafing under Burton's command, and Burton disapproving of Speke's ignorance of the people whose lands through which they travelled. They would endure tremendous hardships, illness, and constant setbacks. 2 years in, deep in the African interior, Burton became too sick to press on, but Speke did, and claimed he found the source in a great lake that he christened Lake Victoria. When they returned to England, Speke rushed to take the credit, disparaging Burton. Burton disputed his claim, and Speke launched another expedition to Africa to prove it. The two became venomous enemies, with the public siding with the more charismatic Burton, to Speke's great envy. The day before they were to publicly debate, Speke shot himself. Yet, there was a third man on both expeditions, his name obscured by imperial annals, whose exploits were even more extraordinary. This was Sidi Mubarak Bombay, who was enslaved and shipped from his home village in East Africa to India. When the man who purchased him died, he made his way into the local sultan's army and eventually travelled back to Africa, where he used his resourcefulness, linguistic prowess, and raw courage to forge a living as a guide. Without his talents, it is likely that neither Englishman would have come close to the headwaters of the Nile, or perhaps even survived. In River of the Gods, Candice Millard has written another peerless story of courage and adventure set against the backdrop of the race to exploit Africa by the colonial powers. That sounds amazing, and I love the story of Burton and Speke. I first came across it, I think, in around 1990, maybe 89, 1991, something like that. No later. In the film Mountains of the Moon, which, if you haven't seen it, watch it. Brilliant. Stars that actor Patrick Bergen, if you remember him. I think he was in like Sleeping with the Enemy. He may have played in a kind of lower budget Robin Hood as well, and other things. But he was great. So he plays Burton. Then you have what's her name? Fantastic actress Fiona. Is it Fiona? Fiona Shaw? No, I can't remember. But you'll know her. She's Harry Potter's aunt, Dursley, in the films. Fantastic. Plays Burton's love interest. And then you have Ian Glenn. Ian Glenn from what is he? Jorah Mormont, is it? From Game of Thrones, yeah. He's in it. He plays Speak. There's all sorts in it. It's great film. Very well done. So that kind of that kind of gave me an interest in the subject, back from being a little kid. So whenever anything like this comes out, it's not that often, I suppose, I have to jump on it. So actually, I might have to get it after making this video, perhaps. I don't know. No, I don't know. Anyway, those are the 5 books that are at the top of my wish list. But of course, it's not exclusive to just those 5. There are probably tons of them there. So there we go. There we have it. Who am I going to be unkind to narrow down their choices for the 5 books for this To Die For tag? I think I have to be unkind to Sean D. Standfast, of course. It'd be rude not to, given that we're partners in this August of Adventures. I don't know if he's been tagged already, but he's tagged from me. Summer, Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. Carrie, Very Literary Carrie. And I will also tag you watching it, because I'd love to see what you would love to get, what you would be prepared to die for to get. To be honest, I'm not prepared to die for any of these, but I do really want them. So there we go. So please, if you're interested, do it. And to those I've tagged, you better do it. No, of course you don't have to, but it would be lovely if you do. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time. Do take care. Bye bye.